Welcome dear viewers. In this video I would like to tell you everything I know about studying in Germany at German public universities. To cover all the necessary topics I will use information materials published by a German Academic Exchange Service, better known as the AAD. Language of instruction. Depending on program, the language of instruction varies. I will only cover German as language of instruction. I won't look into English. That is a topic for another video. To get accepted to study programs in German language, you need to pass one of 3 examinations acknowledged by the German Rectors Conference, or HRK. And they are DSH. DSH, this is an exam that you can take in Germany. Many universities have their own Germanistics departments that organize this exam, and they also offer appropriate preparatory courses so that you can prepare for it. Then there is TestDAF. TestDAF is organized outside of Germany as well, in different places around the world. You can go, for example, to Goethe Institute. Goethe Institute, they offer courses to prepare for this exam, but the exam itself is organized and paid for separately. Goethe Institute also has their own exams that qualify you for studying in German courses in Germany. They are not mentioned in this list, but you can take them as well. And then there is DSD2. In different countries, there are some secondary schools that offer the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities. And in this case, those are extra German lessons where you can participate for 2 or 3 years. I don't remember exactly how many. But in any case, you can pass the DSD2 exam, and it is then valid as proof of your German language skills. Yes, what I didn't mention, there is also Prüfungsteil Deutsch. It's Edstudien colleagues. I will mention them later in the video. But in general, I would recommend, if you have the financial means to cover it, and after you have decided to study in Germany and passed all your high school or university exams or finished your studies, I suggest you to go to Germany and learn German while being there. It's a bit more expensive, of course, but I think that it is much easier to learn German if you already live in Germany than trying to do it in your home country. Types of universities. Yes, there are mostly 2 types of public universities. It's the University and University of Applied Sciences. There are more than 100 universities, and I think there are over 200 universities of applied sciences. Besides that, there are colleges of art, film, and music. Some say that studying at a university is more theoretical and studying at University of Applied Sciences is more practice-oriented. I wouldn't say there is that much difference between the two, except that universities of applied sciences generally have a smaller student population. It is possible that therefore in some fields there might be more lecturers per student than it would be the case at an university, but it highly depends on the course, so it's not a given. Others say that studies are harder at a university. That's debatable too. I think it's hard to graduate successfully both from universities and universities of applied sciences. Passing exams is, I think, equally difficult in both. although it depends on the program. While talking about how hard it is to pass exams and how hard it is to study, I think it would be important to mention that the number of students who enter German universities, especially in programs that have German as language of instruction, are pretty high among foreigners. In undergraduate courses, it has been around 45% or 40% in recent years, and in master's courses, it has been around 30%. I don't believe that these statistics are quite accurate for courses that have German as language of instruction. I think that the old statistics that 65% of students drop out are more accurate. Maybe 1 in 3 students changing their original degree can successfully complete their studies at courses with German as the language of instruction. Duration of a course usually lasts much longer than the study regulations suggest. If, for example, the study regulations state that you have to study and get bachelor's degree in 6 or 7 semesters, then you as foreigners should count with 5 or 5.5 years on average to complete your bachelor's degree. And in case of master's degree, its study regulations state that it's 1.5 or 2 years. Then you can count with 3.5, maybe 4 years to successfully complete your master's degree. Since your studies can take quite long, I suggest you to pay attention to the fact that in some German states, at universities of those respective states, they have the so-called long-term study fees, which you are obliged to pay after a certain number of semesters have been exceeded. They are usually 500 euros per semester. I think there are 4 or 5 federal states. Here it's Lower Saxony, Saarland, Saxony, and Thuringia. So you should think carefully about your chances of graduating in time, and if they are not too high, you need to plan your finances accordingly or dodge the federal states where they have this kind of fee. Let's continue. Yes, and in colleges of art, film, and music, they will have different admission requirements. I will discuss them later. There are different study programs. I wouldn't say 20,000. That's a bit over exaggerated. Many courses overlap in terms of content at different universities. They might have different names, but they will still have the same content. There are bachelor's and master degrees in different specialties. Many universities also have separate study programs for future teachers, but recently many of them have also been reorganized into bachelor and master stages. But if you want to work as a teacher in German schools, then you should preferably study in these courses. And then, of course, there are medical studies, lawyer studies, pharmacy studies that also differ from bachelor and master studies. Applying for studies. Application process. Those who want to apply to study medicine, dentistry, and pharmacy, as study places on these fields are in high demand, they are organized through a central allocation committee, and they have their own website, hochschulstart.de. and you can apply here if you want to study in any of these fields. Generally, degrees that have a limited number of students admitted and too few study places have a separate name in admission. It's called numerus clausus, or NC degrees. And if you search for NC-Werte, you can see what average mark is approximately required to get accepted in the field of study that you are interested in. To calculate what's your average mark, according to the German system, you use the Bavarian formula. We can take a brief look at it. Here it's 1 plus 3 times the maximal mark that you can get in your country minus your average mark divided by maximal mark minus the minimal mark that's required to pass. So for example, you have your average mark is maximal mark, then you will get a 0 here divided by any number. It makes 0, 3 times 0 equals 0. So the result will be 1.0. 1.0 is the highest possible mark in the German education system. Location of the university. You can choose to be in city or in an idyllic small town. Yes, that is true. In small towns, you may have the advantage that if the small town is not very popular in terms of internal migration of Germany, the rent may be lower there. In cities, rents tend to be higher, but in a small town, it will be harder to find a job if you need extra income. In a big city, it's usually a bit easier. And a small town still has one more disadvantage. I wouldn't call it a disadvantage, but it is a fact that people know each other, and combined with the fact that people tend to be grudge bearing, you can get some problems off of it. For example, in the small town where I live, some years ago there were people from Lithuania. I myself am from Latvia, but there were people from Lithuania who illegally collected home appliance waste that people put on the streets where the municipality collects it. Apparently they weren't arrested for it for a long time, and thus Lithuanians have a bad reputation in that town, and Latvians are dragged along because our countries are pretty much neighbors. I received complaints about Lithuanians in many places. I think that made it harder for me to rent an apartment or a car, or to buy or sell something. And all of it because of some people who don't know what the local rules are, or they just ignore them, and through it they give others a bad reputation among the locals. There are, of course, many other scapegoats in big cities, so if you are from lesser known country, then you shouldn't have to worry about these kind of things when you live in a city. Applying for studies. Yes, Annabin.de. To get admitted at a German public university, you need a secondary education certificate. You can find out what education is officially recognized in Germany on this website. Here you can search by country which certificates are recognized and which are not. For example, from my country, there are only 2 certificates that grant me an admission to study at German public university, and that is this one, and a bachelor's degree. So you can search here according to your country, whatever it might be, that it is you are eligible to study at a German university with your certificate. If you are not, then you might get denied, but you can go to your university and then they will send you to a Studienkolleg. It's a university preparatory school. University preparatory school where it is mostly meant for nationals of those countries whose secondary education is not recognized in Germany, but if you received vocational education, it might also be the case. There they have year-long courses in mathematics, German, various other subjects, and after that you can pass the exam and you are eligible to study at a university in Germany. But I think for most of the audience, this will be irrelevant if you are from European Union. I already told you about language certificates. You need to reach test of level 4 in all parts of the exam. They have listening, reading, writing, and speaking parts. In some cases, you can go to your university of choice and ask if they can admit you with lower levels, for example, DSH 1 or test of 4433. They then might let you study with the condition that you retake the exam before the end of semester and pass it at the required level. It costs you extra money. I don't know if one should do that, and I think it is better to start courses with good command of German. Applying directly at the university. Each university usually has its own application portal where you can fill everything out, print it, sign it, and then mail it to them, together with any additional documents they require. You will definitely need your secondary education certificate and, in the case of master's degree, a certified translation of your bachelor's degree as well as certified copies of them. You can get all this in your home country. Translation and notarial services will probably be cheaper than if you were in Germany. Academic year and application deadlines. Yes, for winter and summer semesters, they are 15th of July and 15th of January, respectively. You must definitely send your application in before these dates for degrees where there are limited number of places, the so-called NC Studiengänge. For other degrees, depending on university, they have special offers where you can also apply at a later time. For example, for winter semester, it would be until 30th of August or until 1st September. You might have possibility to apply. The winter semester usually starts in early or mid-October, depending on the university you are studying at. The summer semester starts in March or April and finishes around the end of July, although some second try exams tend to be in August as well. So the actual dates can vary depending on the university and the degree you are studying at. Health insurance. Yes, the so-called European Health Insurance Card or EHIC. You can get one at your National Health Service depending on your country of origin. It is a free service in some countries. In other countries where you have mandatory health insurance, you will probably have your health insurance card, which you can use also as EHIC. In case if you don't have the mandatory health insurance, but you are still insured in your home country, then you will need to take this card out at a National Health Service office, and they will issue this card for you for 3 years. And the card is valid for 3 years, but since your studies are likely to last more than 3 years, then you might need to take it out more than once. When you have that card, then you can use medical services in Germany that are covered by the compulsory health insurance for German citizens. These may vary depending on the area in which you want to receive them. Emergency medicine is of course covered. Dental care is partially covered. Some services are covered, some are not. You can search for all this under the name Kassenleistung, from Kasse meaning the counter of the health insurance office, and here under different categories you can search for what services are covered and what are not. For example, for glasses are usually not covered and are only covered if the strength of glasses exceeds a certain values. It's less or more than 6 diopters. In all other cases, if you need glasses or contact lenses, you will need to pay for them yourself. To get prescription for glasses, I suggest to you just to go to one of the optic shops and they will make your optometric measurements there and make glasses or order contact lenses according to your needs. Another important thing to add is that for young women up to the age of 22, health insurance also covers hormonal pills. For 21 or 24-day pills, you then need to go to a gynecologist to get the prescription. The same applies for other hormonal contraceptives like rings, sticks, and all the rest. Then when you go to a pharmacy, you will need to pay 5 to 10 euro fee when you buy those products if you are over the age of 18. If you still want to pay the health insurance fee in Germany, then I would like to tell you about differences that exist if you pay locally and if you don't. If you don't pay the health insurance in Germany and go to the doctor, then you will always need to fill out a form number 81 before seeing a doctor, in which you certify that you did not enter Germany to receive health care. In addition, there might be some discrimination if you want to receive services that are not emergency, not obligatory, and are on the more expensive end of the spectrum. I, for example, wanted to get orthodontic services, straighten my teeth. I was given a rather expensive healthcare plan at around 15,000 euros, but I met the conditions, and then my dentist contacted my health insurance representative in Germany, and they would normally cover my expenses, but since I was only exempted from paying health insurance, then they did not agree to cover them. So if you have similar expensive needs or wishes, then maybe sometimes it will pay off to pay health insurance fees to German health insurance companies. By the way, when you are applying for studies, you will need to use your health insurance card. You can go to a health insurance representative in Germany, and they will issue you a document that acknowledges that you are free from paying the mandatory health insurance because you are already insured in your home country. You need to use this document to apply to get admitted for studies at your university. Accommodation and housing. Yes, you can either live in state dormitories of the so-called Studentenwerk. Each federal state has its own student services and assistance organization which deals with student accommodation, catering, financial support, and other services. It is called Studentenwerk. They have dormitories where you can live, or you can rent a private apartment. If you are wealthy or if you can afford it, you can of course rent your own apartment, but in most cases you will probably choose to live in a shared apartment with other people. You can apply online for a place in Studentenwerk dormitories, but you have little chance of getting a room. The probably easiest way to get a room is if you can contact in advance private landlords or other people via the internet, and then you arrange a meeting with them, and then when you are in Germany you try to rent something. WG gesucht, a popular portal for searching and advertising shared private accommodation. Yes, this is the place where you should first look at if you want to get a private place to live. Here you can select the relevant city. I don't know, for example, Bonn. And then you select here are the types, and WG-Zimmer would be a room in a shared apartment. And then you can search, and there are all sorts of filters. You can filter by address, by the type of people that live there, whether there is furniture for smokers, and so on. And once you have found a suitable advertisement, you can write them and you can go to an interview where you either meet the property managers, or most often you meet other residents of the shared apartment who then decide whether they want to live with you or not. This can sometimes be very problematic. I have had a lot of trouble finding a place to stay, because if people who choose can have German neighbors, then most Germans will prefer to live with other Germans and not with foreigners. Of course, you can rent an apartment together with other foreigners, but the numbers of such advertisements are not as numerous. German citizens also find it difficult to find a place to live, so it's not that this problem only applies to foreign students. I would like to warn you about one specific thing. I recommend that if you have other options, don't live at a place without a rental agreement. Although you may have a superficially friendly relationship and financial gain, it is a very unpleasant situation in any case of conflict, and you may find it difficult to find a new place to live if it's necessary. I therefore advise you to refuse any offers where you are living without a rental agreement. Although sometimes it is worth the risk, in my personal case, it opened up the possibility for me to move to a much better real estate where I would have never normally ended up at. Checklists. Gather all the information, refresh your German knowledge, apply for admission. We are already discussing all of this. Semester contribution. tuition fees and other expenses, it's between 130, the semester contribution is between 130 and 390 euros. You can pay the first semester fee from your bank account in your home country, but in general you need a bank account in Germany so that you can pay for everything conveniently. To get an account in Germany, you usually need a declared proof of residence in Germany. As soon as you have a rental contract, you also need to get a specific document called Wohnungsgeberbestätigung, or the approval of the apartment's owner. Generally, you should receive this automatically, but maybe some places don't switch tenants that often, so they might not know the new rule yet. So you would have to give them the form in person so that they can sign it. You can then go to the city or county government office with this certificate and together with your ID, you can then declare your place of residence. It's called Einwohnermeldeamt. And you can declare your place of residence and they will issue you with a certificate of acknowledging it. And you need to use that document to be able to open a bank account. In Germany, declaring your place of residence is mandatory, and if you move to live somewhere else, you then have to register it. Generally speaking, to find a place to live at from your home country is very difficult. It is better if you are in Germany and then search for an apartment. I think that to attend all the interviews and see all the apartments, you need to be on site. I suggest you make all the appointments and then rent a room in a hotel, hostel, or Airbnb, which is also quite popular. In addition, Studentenwerk has temporary accommodation programs for 2 weeks or something like that to support students in finding an apartment in private real estate market. Every student enrollment is subsidized by the German state. Only few states have tuition fees. Yes, it looks like only Hamburg and Bavaria have study fees. Most states don't have it. Besides that, there is the universal semester contribution, which is around from 130 to 390 euros per semester. It includes the Studentenwerk services. Those are all kinds of advisory services, and in addition, it usually includes a semester ticket for public transport within the city or region you live at, which makes up the bulk of that fee. Students' monthly expenses. Rent 320 euros. It depends on the location. I would say that in cheapest places you can rent a small room for maybe 140 to 150 euros. In more expensive places you won't find a small room under 200 euros. In most expensive ones, under 350 or 400 euros, there won't be any offers. So it highly depends on the area where you live at. I, for example, paid 576 euros for a 45 square meter flat, shared with 2 other people, so 3 people in total, which included utilities and internet. It was 192 euros per person, with an okay kitchen, bathroom, and a small room of 8 to 9 square meters for each tenant. At another place, I paid 260 euros for a 15 square meter room, The kitchen and bathroom were not as good though. I generally advise you to not mind the rental price too much if the difference is under 50 euros per month because it is already difficult to find any place to live. If you can find an apartment in a place where you like your neighbors and area is okay, then it's better to live there for a few euros more than somewhere else. So I advise you to be not too picky in case if your chosen city's real estate market is very saturated and it is hard to find a place to live. The cost of food, of course, depends on your preferences and habits. Non-imported staple foods like flour, potatoes, a variety of local grains and vegetables, milk and dairy products, etc. are pretty cheap. Meat prices are okay, so by choosing carefully and taking into account which products have a reduced tax rate, you can have quite economical expenditure on food. If you want seasonal groceries, then you can go to Saturday markets in some places, where you can buy goods from agricultural cooperatives and farmers. Some other places you can buy meat from small meat processing shops, and so on. So all of this affects your food expenditure. Health insurance, as I said before, you might be exempt from this fee. It depends on your home country's health insurance policy. In some countries, maybe it might be more expensive than in Germany, then you will probably choose German health insurance. But if it's not, then you will probably use your home country's one. So it's your choice whether you want to opt in and pay in Germany, or if for economic reasons you want to spare money and use your home country's health insurance if it's cheaper. Scholarships and loans and other funding options. To study in Germany, they are rarely available. I personally don't know too many people that are lucky at it. Yes, there are some who have received the DAAD scholarship, but as far as private scholarship funds are concerned, I don't know of any student who has received anything. You can of course still apply and look for opportunities on your own initiatives, but I have no useful advice or positive examples to mention here. Besides the DAAD scholarship, different kinds of study funds are listed here. Then there is BAföG. It is German government's education support loan, of part of which you need to pay back after graduation. But in most cases you won't be eligible for it. You need to have lived in Germany for 5 years, or need to have German spouse or something like that. But maybe if you study in Germany for some time and go for masters and whatnot, you might become eligible. So you need to go to Studentenwerk and apply at their office that is responsible for BAföG, and you maybe might get it. Then there are other loan options, like this one. There is something called Bildungskredit, the education credit. They all have different conditions than BAföG. Then there are notes on applying for scholarship. This is probably all there is in this material. Now I would like to tell you more about what are the study conditions and study life. How does it look like at German public universities? Studying mostly happens in small groups. At universities you have compulsory subjects which you have to choose from. At universities of applied sciences you usually have no choice and you are automatically enrolled in the subjects you are obliged to take. Studying is, as I said, done in groups and you have to enroll in these groups. In some universities you are assigned in groups by the administration. In others it is done privately on students' initiative where students divide themselves. So you end up in one group with certain other students, and the better your group of students is, the easier, of course, it is for you. Unfortunately, there is a tendency that foreigners, in most cases, end up in the same groups with other foreigners. I myself have had the experience where I wanted to apply in a different group with other students, but they complained to the administration and the administration then moved me to another group together with other foreigners. So I advise you to be careful when choosing a university and be aware of discrimination among students and staff that might occur there. I personally have been repeatedly moved and transferred against my will, so this is not a rare occasion or rare phenomenon. Study work is done in groups and there are many subjects where groups have to do different tasks. It is in most cases worse when you are together with other foreigners that might have the same difficulties that you do. Here I also would like to make a small note about Germany and Germans. I don't know how it is in other countries, but in my home country, because there is a big population of people of German descent, I guess, there is this myth about Germany that Germans are all honest, meticulous angels and whatnot. This is, of course, very far from the truth. There are good people in Germany, there are hardworking and helpful people there, but there are also bad people, evil people and criminals, and you have, as anywhere in the world, beware of those who would want you harm. But if you are criminals, then this video is not made for you. You will probably know what to do better by yourselves. Most students cheat as much as possible. The exam timetable is very fast-paced and harsh. Many students go to the doctor to avoid this, to get a sick leave and then get freed from exams. They usually complain of stomachache or some other hard-to-diagnose complaint, and doctors tend to be very empathetic and issue them a document that frees them from attending university. Cheating in various exams is also common. Copying others' work or plagiarizing is a common practice. Each field of study has its own, each degree has its own Facebook page, most often organized by the student council of that particular faculty or whatnot. People tend to share old exam questions, their various papers, lab reports, etc. So I suggest you do your research beforehand if you are admitted to a certain university for a certain degree. Is there something similar that is available for that course? For example, I will show you one department of University of Applied Sciences has its own forum on the internet. As you can see here, all bachelor and master subjects of that department are listed here. Each subject has got several subcategories where you can download old exams that are called Klausur, lecture notes, lab work papers, and various other materials. And for example, here I chose a certain subject. It's called ionisierende Strahlung or ionizing radiation. Here you see all the photos that have been submitted by different users of the previous year's exams. And here under the practicum category, others have submitted the lab reports, which everyone then copies. So this is what I recommend you to pay attention to, and I don't recommend being honest in an unfair system because you are only shooting yourselves in the foot. The exams are quite hard, they last 60 to 120 minutes. Most of them are 60 or 90 minutes. The pace is very high in written exams, even if you know the content of the exam in advance, you still have a high chance to not pass in some subjects. By the way, when failing an exam, you have the right to retake it once, at best twice, and in very rare occasion, 3 times. That is, you try once, if you fail, then you try again, and if you fail then too, depending on the university, you may or may not need a separate application to take exam for the 3rd time. Different universities and degrees have a set maximum number of subjects that you can try 3 times. How many depends on the respective university. You can read it in the examination regulations of your program, which are called Studien- und Prüfungsordnung. In these regulations, it is then mentioned that if you exceed the maximum number of subjects you are allowed to take for 3 times, or if you fail any of the examinations 3 times in a row, then you are automatically exmatriculated. After the result of the exam has been announced, you have the opportunity to view your exam. This is called Klausureinsicht. It's within a certain period of time after you have taken exam usually. Then you will go to the professor and see it, and you can ask them questions. If you are not satisfied with the result, or you feel that you have been awarded the score you don't deserve, then you have the option to submit a complaint. It's called Widerspruch or Widerspruch vor der Klausur. And in case if you have failed 3 times and your complaint is not accepted, then you can submit a request to be allowed to take the exam a 4th time due to particularly serious circumstances. This document is called Härtefallantrag. Of course, in this document, nobody says that the exam is too difficult, or I didn't study enough, or wasn't prepared before the exam because of my own fault, that's why I failed. Most people, of course, usually write some sort of fairy tales. Examples of what to write there are available on the internet, and you can then submit something similar. Possibility that your request will get accepted and you will be able to retake the exam depends on your field of study and your situation in your studies. For example, if it is the only exam you have failed 3 times and you have already gotten pretty far in your studies, then the chances are quite high that they will accept your request and allow you to continue. However, if you are at the beginning of your studies, then it is likely that your request will be refused and you will be expelled. You will then have to look for another university or seek education as an apprentice or go to work or apply for social benefits. Regarding communication between students and lecturers, generally the communication style is quite informal and relaxed. You don't have to list their titles, a simple Herr or Frau is enough. You can talk to them both in class and after lectures by email, phone or during their office hours. You will need to contact them in advance to talk to them at their Sprechstunde. So, some lecturer or professor will be needed for the topic of your bachelor's and master's thesis, because even if you are writing it outside the university, you will still need a representative at your university. While being at bachelor's and master's thesis, I would also like to mention that those are also being plagiarized. So if you have that option, I think that you should not necessarily pass on it. There are already old topics in many places where someone has already written a bachelor's or master's thesis, and they can then offer you to use the old material, which you then have to expand on, and you can then hand in the result. Generally, nobody checks for plagiarism, although automatic plagiarism software is available, but it is not normally used without an official complaint. And nobody does it as long as you haven't become a minister in Germany or something like that. Copying others' work and plagiarism is bread and butter at many German universities. You don't have to do it, of course, but you can do it just like almost everyone else does. Because to a greater or lesser extent, everywhere and everything gets copied at all German universities. There are other prerequisites to pass a subject besides written exams. In many subjects, there are classes in which you must be present where it is recorded whether you are present or not. You need to know in advance which classes are compulsory and which are not. It's called Anwesenheitspflicht. It depends on the university, but lectures are mostly optional, so you'll need to look which lectures you find valuable or useful, and in case you feel that the lecturer is not interested in teaching his subject and his lectures are of little value, then I would recommend to not attend them, because you are just tiring yourself out. A small note, of course, it is now COVID era, but it will probably end soon. But yes, as I said, I don't recommend attending all of the classes because it will tire you out where it's unnecessary. And a lot of the subjects have only formal meaning, and it is advisable to pass them with as little effort as possible. If you need to apply for an internship or for a bachelor's or master's thesis, then you have to apply in many places. I don't recommend you to go into too much detail when writing an application for each place. In my experience, it can take at least 10-20 applications to get anybody to answer to you at all, so you could go to an interview. Interviews tend to be quite difficult. There can be difficult professional questions, as well as private ones. Others may personally dislike or like you there, depending on the place, but the fact that you have to apply a lot is inevitable. There are even some who apply to 50, 80 places but have received maybe 3 replies, then went to 2 interviews and still end up empty-handed. It is indeed very hard in some fields and also depends a bit on your luck. You can also apply in other German-speaking countries, as in Austria or Switzerland. It is also quite popular among German students because they don't have it easy either. I therefore recommend you to try it out if necessary. As for life outside studies, you may need to buy furniture and other household items, especially if you are renting an unfurnished flat. There are different groups for this on Facebook where people buy and sell second-hand goods. For example, here I choose Hamburg. They have 69,000 members there, and you can buy and sell various goods that you need. If you use some of these Facebook groups or other e-commerce portals, I would recommend you to use a German name. because in my experience, unfortunately, it significantly improves your chances of buying or selling something. There are also groups on Facebook that people use to give away things they don't need anymore. The name is then related to Verschenken. Here I searched in Stuttgart. So as you can see, in different cities there are such groups, and you can get many household items for free. Or if you want to give something away, you may find those groups useful. Even more popular than Facebook is eBay. eBay has a subsection for local ads where all sorts of household appliances are sold and given away for free. Furniture, home appliances, or whatever else it might be. It is the most popular second-hand goods trading portal in Germany, so I suggest you to both use it and also use Facebook groups. What haven't I looked at yet about jobs? Yes, as far as jobs are concerned, there are different places where you can look for a job. You can, for example, use National Employment Agency's portal, Agentur für Arbeit. Here you can search in different categories in your city or region, or as well as by type or work and profession. Besides that, many ads for students are posted on Studentenwerk's websites. Here, for example, I searched on Studentenwerk Augsburg. As you can see, there are various job offers for students where you can then apply, send an email or call them. I would recommend calling the various places by phone if it says you can apply that way, because you won't waste as much time that way. In addition, even though this is the era of Corona, but hopefully it will end soon, but yes, various shops, canteens, restaurants, and so on tend to post job offers in their windows as well, or next to the front door, for example. There you can then apply directly at the company. Besides that, there are also companies in Germany that temporarily lend workers to other companies on request. They are called Zeitarbeitsfirmen. For example, here in Bremen, you can go to them and apply as an employee, and they then rent you out to another company that has, for example, a sudden labor shortage. Besides that, it is important to mention that many employees are found through acquaintances. One can recommend someone as an employee if they already work there themselves. So being socially active is also very important for finding a job in Germany. In many places, job ads are only posted when no employees have been found inside of the social circle, which of course happens very often, so there is usually no shortage of job ads anyway. If you're short on funds or can't find a job, then you can earn a small amount of money collecting bottles. There is quite a lot competition for collecting plastic and glass bottles, and that takes quite some amount of time and effort, so I wouldn't suggest to do it. In addition, you can sell blood plasma or blood. It's called Blutspende or blood donation there, but most of the so-called donors queue there for uh, €20 award for each time you spend your blood. As for working in universities and various institutes, each university has its own portal where they put their job adverts, where you can then search and look for vacancies that are open there. Here I, for example, searched at University of Mainz. They have here you can apply as assistants, research associates, and so on. Um, as I said, all universities and research institutions have such pages, and on them they post all their job offers. When it comes to leisure activities, there are sports clubs of all kinds, clubs for various arts and other hobbies, where you can go and practice your hobby. Membership fees are not too expensive. It depends on your hobby, of course, but in most cases the prices are quite low. I would say that most clubs have a student price below 10 euros per month. What else should be mentioned? Romantic relationships. You can get to know people at all kinds of events, clubs, parties. There are also shared apartment parties which people organize privately, as well as nightclubs in various locations. There are events organized by university or student societies, etc. In addition, many people get to know each other through their hobbies, through acquaintances. Parties in communal flats also would count as getting to know someone through acquaintances. I would say that internet dating is rarer. Of course, it depends on the person, but I would say that most people in Germany get to know each other in person. That was so before Corona. Right now it's a bit different, but after Corona ends, it will probably be the same way. In general, I would say that when it comes to society as a whole, then in Germany the behavior of men and women towards each other in public sphere is more general neutral than in my home country. Most people don't discriminate on gender so heavily, with holding doors, girls first, or that kind of attitude. The same is also valid for romantic relationships. Both sexes can show initiative, first initiative. Financially, everything is split in half. I, for example, didn't have to take the initiative to meet someone. As soon as I was more socially active and outside of my home, so some girls showed interest in me and all I had to do was ask them out. But it probably depends on one's looks, character, cultural background, and finances, because there are also many foreigners who have lived in Germany for many years and have never dated a German. If you are a woman, then in case you are not bad looking, then you can probably be quite picky. You have an advantage over your male counterparts because in most cases you don't need to have a very good command of German to get to know someone. I have even had Germans ask me through a friend of mine if I can help them with my native language because they liked a girl from my native country. And also, of course, you can actively choose your partners yourselves, because in Germany it is a popular opinion among women that valuable partners have to be fought for. All that I said is, of course, if you want to meet German citizens, there are also many foreigners living in Germany that you can meet, and what I said does not necessarily apply to them. I already told you all about contraceptives while discussing health insurance, except condoms, which of course you can buy everywhere. As for gay people, lesbians, and transsexuals, I'm not an expert on the subject and I have no advice for you if you belong to one of these groups. About transport, if you need to rent a car, then it can be quite complicated, especially if you need a car to move your furniture from one place to another at the same time when other tenants are moving, like September, October, March, or around New Year's Eve. There is a very tight market for rental cars. You can of course always ask for private help from friends and neighbors, but if not, you have to use a rental car. In many places, there are various unpleasant rules for this, like they only rent to people over 25 or some other restrictions. If you are from EU, then your driving license is valid in all of European unions, or there shouldn't be problem with your driving license. In some places there might be even some discrimination. I once did not have a credit card to pay the deposit, and the cash deposit was very high, and I arranged that I would be back in half an hour, and I returned there with 2000 or 2500 euros in cash. I don't remember how many. So I could rent the van that I ordered, but it was already gone. And it happened in a place which was a dealer for new Opel and Kia cars. They obviously didn't trust me, who knows? Maybe I am a car thief from Eastern Europe or something like that, and therefore I am not a worthy customer. And in case if you use your private car from your home country, you should be aware that you are under increased surveillance because you are using your country's national number plate. The story of the Lithuanian garbage collectors, although I am Latvian, but whatever, they were identified and got so bad reputation among others because of this, because they used a van with a Lithuanian number plate. So please note that if you do not behave well or do something that is not the local way, then it's all taken into account by locals and made known to everyone. The same applies for German residents as well, because Germany has regional number plates and each county and city has its own code. For everyday transport, you can also get around by bicycle. In many places it is faster and more convenient than public transport or a car. Second-hand bicycles are not too expensive. In many places you can even one get an older bike for free. It's quite rare though, more often you can buy a cheaper bike. Bicycle theft is quite common in Germany, so I advise you not to leave your bike outside for extended period of time. I would like to tell you a bit about living in a shared apartment and dormitories. There tend to be different rules that you have to follow, sorting of waste, hygiene plans, and so on. In some flats, they have shared funds depending on the participants that are used to purchase various household items and even organize parties. So there are many things that depend on where and with whom you live. Fashion also should get mentioned. Most people wear plain clothes that are not in bright colors. I recommend avoiding bright colors and large writings on clothes, bags, or accessories as they are often read and taken into account. Lastly, I would like to inform you about communication between people and different prejudices that exist in Germany. There are people who, when you say something to them, pretend that they don't hear you, even if you are 1 meter away from each other. It's hard for me to say what their motive is, but it's clear that they don't like you at all. I recommend not to take it too seriously, but I want to warn you about it because you may encounter such behavior in any place in Germany. Over time, I also noticed that many of the German locals who have been friendly to me identify me with my region or identify me with Russia, although I am not from Russia, but whatever. One of them has been to Russia on an exchange program. Another had a Russian girlfriend. Another had the Russian anthem as a ringtone, and one other knew too much about Russian politicians. So don't get too offended by the fact that you are asked or told something about your region or your neighbors or whatever you are associated with. Besides that, if there will be any other foreigners, then society in public or at university will pressure you to be together with them. So you must be prepared to either be alone in many places or to communicate with other foreigners for most of the time. Many Germans, even though you speak to them in German, will answer to you in English. When you have good enough pronunciation, then this will decrease a lot. So you can use it as an indicator if you want to know that your German is at a very good level. As a last tip, I would recommend you that if you feel that you are not welcome somewhere and there is no one who is welcoming or friendly towards you, whether it's a student group, university, a sports club, a workplace, or whatever, then look for possibility to change it and to go to another place, and don't waste your time among people who are not on good terms with you. I hope I have described most of the topics you need to study and live in Germany. I have set up a Discord server where you can contact me, and link to it is in the video description. Thanks for watching. I wish you all the best for your studies in Germany.